In this video, I'm going to have Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition take on Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition. It's not what you think. If you haven't seen my video on did we play it properly, about the 1st edition D&D, then this may not make much sense. But I want to compare the two systems. I think in the head-to-head combat between these two, 5e clearly is one. At least it's won the market. I don't even know if there are a lot of people that play 4th edition at D&D anymore. But I'm just going to go over quickly some of the pros and cons of these two systems, and I think maybe we missed some things about 4th edition D&D. I think maybe they got some stuff right here. Okay, so first off, with 5th edition D&D, I would say the pros of this book, for sure, is that you get more or less what you expect from it. It didn't have any surprises. It's because it's more along the lines of 2nd edition. The other thing about it is that it took a lot of stuff from the OSR and from other game communities and implemented it into the rules. And so a lot, it took a lot of the evolution of games and incorporated it, and evolved itself. As opposed to 4th edition D&D, which did not really do that as much. 4th edition D&D sort of went back, I believe, to the start of Dungeons & Dragons itself, and it went more on the course of the wargame aspect of the original D&D. And it built on the wargame aspect more. Whereas 5th edition D&D went more with the role-playing system that we're all used to, and that really got popular by the Blue Book and the Moldvay and the basic box sets and so forth that everybody's come to kind of expect is how you play D&D. But 4th edition D&D has a lot of support for it, but not nearly as much as 5th edition. 5th edition has a lot more support for it because of online, because of all this, the DM's Guild and stuff. It's just a ton of support, but there aren't, I believe, as many books. There's actually more books for this. As for layout, I actually have a preference for the way that the 4th edition books were written and laid out. It's a lot simpler. But again, it's more aimed at almost mass combat and wargaming on a board than D&D 5th edition is. And 5th edition, like I say, took a lot of stuff from other game systems and sort of cannibalized them. And that is a good thing. It really is a good thing. I wish they had given credit, though. That's kind of unfortunate, but I guess they probably figured they didn't have to because they're D&D. After all. So, 5th edition is less minis friendly, in my opinion. 4th edition is more minis friendly. You almost have to have minis to play 4th edition for it to make any sense. On the role-playing aspect, as people have come to accept role-playing, by far D&D 5th edition is superior to 4th edition. 4th edition, you really do feel like you're playing a war game. So, at least I've found anyway. With 5th edition, you are really able to manipulate the rules and make them your own and change things around or whatever. I kind of feel like less so with 4th edition D&D. 5th edition is easier to play. I feel like even though the books are actually, even though the 4th edition book is a little bit smaller, the rules are a little more concise. For some reason, maybe it's just bias, I'm not sure. I feel like 5th edition's a little bit easier to wrap your head around, especially for newer players. But that being said, Fourth edition is pretty easy to figure out. It's pretty easy to play too. So I would say they're more like, it's almost like a tie here. The thing about fourth edition D&D that a lot of people complained about, myself included, is that it does feel, when you're DMing it, you kind of feel like you're filling in the role of a computer. You kind of feel like you're playing World of Warcraft or something like that, like you're almost simulating World of Warcraft. Now, I've come to understand that's simply because of the way I was playing it. The rules kind of push you in that direction, give you that feeling, but when I look at it in retrospect now, I'm realizing it didn't have to be that way. It was because of expectations. All that being said, what I'm going to say about the 4th edition D&D and why I think it's kind of worth a second look, for a couple of reasons, actually. But one of the reasons is that if you play it in sort of a browser style, it really shines. It shines a lot more than 5th edition D&D, in my opinion, because this is such a combat game. You can have drop-in games. You could have a rolling timeline with 15, 20, 30, 40, even 100 players. It's possible to do that in the way that some of the people that played 1st edition D&D did. And I don't think that that's as easy to do with 5th edition D&D. Well, I know it's not as easy to do, and that's because 5th edition D&D kind of leaves behind the wargaming aspect of the game, whereas 4th edition really embraces it. It's almost schizophrenic in it's sort of broken up. It's almost like this is the role-playing version of the game, this is the minis version of the game. So my solution to this is to kind of push them both together. You can take aspects of 5th edition, especially the role-playing aspect of it, and they can work very well with 4th edition. And the 4th edition combats and stuff are so well balanced. This is a much more balanced game than 5th edition. And so the combat is a lot more robust in 5th edition, albeit it takes a while to do the combat. One aspect of this 4th edition that I really did not like, and I think that there's probably a lot of people feel this way, is that it kind of has reset levels in it. Tiers, I don't know if I can find the page with it on here, but it has tiers where you kind of reset, so you get better and better at things, and then all of a sudden it resets and you're kind of back to being not first level, but you're robbed of a lot of your gains so that the balance can be maintained, and that happens at these different tiers. That really drove me crazy. I don't like that much at all. That's one aspect of the game that still kind of drives me nuts. But one thing about 4th edition is that with all the books and everything, and there's a ton of them, I'll go through them at some point, there's a lot of information in it that can be carried over to 5th edition and incorporated and used in 5th edition. And I think that that's a really cool aspect of 4E, just as a resource. It kind of reminds me of 1st edition that way. And that's really what I'm getting at here, is that I think 4E is truer to the 1st edition rules than 5E is. I think 5E is truer to what D&D evolved into, but I'm not sure it's true to what started the game. I think 4th edition is truer to that. And in that form, I think 4E is superior if you're going to play it that way. And what I'm talking about is sort of the browser way of doing it, which, like I say, if you go back and you watch that video, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched that video, then this isn't going to make much sense. But I can see sitting around a big game table playing this, people dropping in, having patrons take over different aspects. Patrons run different armies of minis and stuff to come at each other. I can see that quite well with 4E. I think it would work great. Whereas with 5E, it's going to be more your dungeon crawls and your role playing and that aspect of it. Although the rules don't emphasize the role playing in 4E, it's emphasized in 5E. But there's no reason that a DM can't emphasize the role playing aspect of it for themselves in the same way that the original rules didn't. The original rules, and I'm talking about the white box rules, emphasize combat over role-playing. The role-playing evolved out of the combat. There's no reason role-playing can't evolve out of 4E. So I kind of have to wonder if we just played 4E wrong too. It's possible. Anyway, thanks for watching. That's the end of my video. Those are my thoughts on this. Dungeon Master's Guide versus Dungeon Master's Guide. 5E versus 4E. Thanks for watching. I hope you'll subscribe and leave a like. And please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about this. All right, thank you.